Abraham Maslow never invented a pyramid. That's right. He proposed a hierarchy of needs that humans desired and needed to fill in his paper, A Theory of Human Motivation, published in 1943. So who invented the pyramid? We'll get to that. I first want to just draw your attention to Maslow's original paper in 1943. In it, he proposed a hierarchy of needs. His hierarchy of needs was as follows. First, he proposed physiological needs. These were bodily drives for homeostasis, including warmth, coolness, and hunger. Next were the safety needs. These were protection from danger and harm such as crime, violence, wars, etc. He then proposed love needs, later relabeled to belonging needs. Next were esteem needs, the desire to be respected by others and by yourself. And finally, self-actualization needs, people that have satisfied their other needs and can spend time fulfilling their potential. So this is great, Paul, right? You're wondering who invented the pyramid? We'll get there. But first, another line I want to call your attention to in this paper. He said, in actual fact, most members of our society who are normal are partially satisfied in all their basic needs and partially unsatisfied in all their basic needs at the same time. This is pretty interesting because it shows even in that original paper, he was pretty unsure about what he was proposing. In the paper, he did propose that these sort of worked as a hierarchy, but he wasn't totally sure because one of the problems was he didn't think he had met many people who actually had self-actualized. Here's what he said. The clear emergence of these needs rests upon prior satisfaction of this physiological safety, love, and esteem needs. We shall call people who are satisfied in these needs basically satisfied people, and it is from these that we may expect the fullest and healthiest creativeness. Since in our society, basically satisfied people are the exception, we do not know much about self-actualization, either experimentally or clinically. It remains a challenging problem for research. So how did the pyramid get created? Maslow was writing about his research in psychology in the Boston area. He was in Waltham at Brandeis University, and the people that picked it up were in Cambridge, around the MIT, Harvard circles, and they were in the business world. The first person from the business world that took attention to the hierarchy of needs was Douglas McGregor. You might know him. He created Theory X and Theory Y, two explanations of management. We're not going to go into that, but what's more interesting is the first visual depiction of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This first visual was created by Keith Davis in 1957. He was in the management consulting world, management professor world. He proposed a step diagram that looked like this. So as you can see, a couple things that stand out from this. I think one that's just funny is looking at the people in this. It's basically a man, and it starts with him all the way over on the left side, trying to meet his physiological needs. As you can see, he's wearing a suit, which is just pretty funny. I don't think you're buying a suit before you try to meet your basic needs. The interesting thing is about what happens next. So this jumps from the management world then to a business journalist. In 1960, Charles McDermid wrote in Business Horizons. He wrote an article titled, How Money Motivates Men. And in this article, he argued that for management, the important conclusion to be drawn from the whole theory is that no one incentive is the only answer to motivating men on the job. Money is powerful, but its power is limited. Aiding group activities, creating opportunities, recognizing worth, encouraging growth, and fostering individual expression can also promote employee effort, in some cases more effectively than money. So there you have it. 17 years after Maslow published the first research on human motivation and his hierarchy of needs, business journalists turned it into something to convince people to pay people less. So as you can see, from there, the pyramid has been replicated hundreds of times, to the point where now today basically accept it as fact that Maslow created a pyramid and proposed this. The reason is Maslow never denied it or rejected this explanation or interpretation of it. And there's an explanation of this in an interesting research paper called Who Built Maslow's Pyramid? A History of the Creation of Management Studies' Most Famous Symbol and Its Implications for Management Education. So in this research paper, Todd Bridgman, Stephen Cummings, and John Ballard all argue that by the time the hierarchy of needs was beginning to be celebrated by McGregor, Davis, McDermid, and others, aspects of Maslow's professional life were unraveling. As they say, he felt underappreciated in psychology, whose journals had been taken over by experimental studies which depressed Maslow for their lack of creativity and insight. He also had more pragmatic concerns, suffering periods of ill health and financial difficulties. Maslow found personal and professional redemption in his acceptance in the management community and financial gain through speaking engagements and consulting. He welcomed the new field, showing an interest in his ideas and offering the potential for personal benefit. So this is how the pyramid was created. Maslow didn't reject it. We don't have good evidence showing whether or not Maslow really believed in this, but we do have a sense of what Maslow was studying later in his life. Unfortunately, Maslow died pretty young, and a couple of years before his death, he was still pretty optimistic about his deeper research that he was driving about how humans are motivated. Here's what he said at the time. We are now in the middle of such a change in the conception of man's capacities, potentials, and goals. A new vision is emerging of the possibilities of man and his destiny, and its implications are many, not only for our conceptions of education, but also for science, politics, literature, economics, religion, and even our conceptions of the non-human world. My conclusion, Maslow would have loved living in today's world. He would have loved the interchange of ideas, the ability to put things out there without going through gatekeepers, and he would have been exciting for how much progress we've made in many disciplines. I imagine he also might be slightly disappointed with the state of psychology research as well, and probably wouldn't have been all that impressed with how much stuff has been debunked in the replication crisis and how much work we still have to do and how much is left unknown about the human mind.